It's Joe, and this is my next project. This is the video where we commit, weld up a few things, and we're about 10 seconds into it, and I've already got myself in a trap. I've thought about the way this piece removes out of the car, and it will remove out of the car, but it won't remove out of the car while the car's on this frame rack. We got the frame rack, the I-beam. The I-beam's welded to the frame rack. The frame is welded to the I-beam, and this piece cannot drop out the bottom. I had planned on having the welding done on the bench where it would be easier, but I couldn't do that. That's okay. We'll go right along, and we can commit to some other things. And here's the way we've done that. We had to center everything. That's why I haven't committed before. We just had to absolutely center everything. We have to center this axle side to side, which we've done. And here is how that goes side to side. I've got a plumb bob, I've got a string wrapped around the inner hub, and it's flat against this. It's flat front to back is measured on the front of this hub. Side to side is measured on the face of the hub, and it all comes down to the tape measure. The toe is set. These long angle iron clamped to both sides. We've got a temporary tie rod, more clamp, and we measured the toe. It's the same here as it is here. Also, and this string is wrapped the same way. We measure around the front of the hub and the face of the hub, and it goes down to a tape measure. And this string also I can measure out from the frame machine to the string on both sides. Both sides it's the same. The car's sitting square on the frame machine. We can measure here to here, and that's the same on both sides. Same plumb bob, both sides. And we go around to the back. The car is sitting square. The car is square on the frame table. This is the center of the frame table. And we have a plumb bob hanging over two tape measures. Tape measures are held down with a piece of plywood with a shot bag on it. And we really don't care. We don't care what number this is as long as they're both the same. I like them to be the same. And right at the apex is where that plumb bob sits. It's the center of the car, so this squares the front axle on the car. If it's the same distance from the center and the back to the right front to the left front, then it should be square with the car. If we were doing the back of the car, I'd do the same thing. Here's something else that we committed to. And see this little unstable little stick. I can move that stick back and forth a little bit and change the caster. I've committed to 5 degrees caster. And this goes on the flat right there at 5 degrees. Both sides. So we've got caster. We're square in the car. It's the right distance forward and back. And remember, we did these before. We did these. but we never weld them. And I told you I don't weld anything until it's time to commit. I've got it tacked right here. I've got it tacked in the back. I've already taken the other side off because I'm thinking, see the string? And remember, we even did the side. I've got this side panel cut, but I didn't commit to putting it on because it's just not time yet. It's not time to commit that. But it will go straight as an arrow from here down here. This will be the top of the door, and this will separate the hood. The hood will lay on top of this little piece of C-purlin that we had there. And that has an angle, if you can still see the string. And I'm thinking that this radius rod is not on the same rake as the top, but it is more rake than the bottom. It's halfway in between. And I'm thinking about how this thing's gonna look going down the road. It may be acceptable just going down the road, the angle of this. But when you park it, we're gonna have one airbag in the center that's gonna push the nose down. When the nose goes down, this radius rod will appear to be flatter. It will be flatter. It will be on less of an angle. It will be on less of an angle than the top and more equal to the angle, the flat of the ground. So I'm gonna move this up. I'm gonna take it all back apart right here and here. And I'm gonna move it up where it is closer to the angle up here, which will be a little bit much when you're going down the road. But when you push the front end down, it'll have a better angle when it's sitting. I think it'll work out both ways. When you're driving and when you're parked, you can make it look just the way you want it to look. Also, what else did I not show you last time? I want this directly on top. I can change these there's little spacers under there and pivot this back and forth, and I can make this tube go over or come back, make it go wherever I want it to go. And I want it directly in line with the top of this. I don't think that's extremely important performance-wise. I just think it'll look better there. I want to make sure this doesn't interfere with the bracket. This bolt, this nut doesn't hit this bracket when it's compressed, and I don't think it will. Also, something you didn't see, I've got this shock. I cut a little piece of PVC right here to hold the shock at ride height. I cut the edge off of it, and that little piece snaps in. The stem is pushed in to ride height. It will come out of there about 1.5 inches, and compression is about 2 inches here, maybe 2.25 through here. So the nose of the car, well, this stem can come out of here 1.5 inches, and it can go back in about 2.25 when we push the nose down. And that's what I'm gonna call ride height. Oh, before it all falls apart. Also, I've got a few washers in there to where this will poke outside the body the correct amount. And we'll be able to get the nut on the end. We'll do this one the exact same way. One last thing. When I was looking at this, I said, I had seen something like that before, and you have too. It's a Japanese thing, and I looked it up. I found out what I was envisioning there, and I didn't do this on purpose. It just happened to be this way. If you look up Torii Gate, or Torii Gate, Torii Gate. It's a Japanese gate, and it symbolizes the passage between ordinary and sacred. So everything is ordinary on one side and sacred on the other side. And while there's nothing going to be sacred on this car going through this gate, but I promise you it won't be ordinary. I'm going to chop some of this stuff up and we'll be back in a minute. And I am back. That was quick. Well, really it took most of the Saturday. Got the angle on the radius rods that it's not equal to the rake of the top of the hood, but it's going to be close. It was pretty close. The back of the radius rods will extend out from the body about a 1/2 inch. The shocks will extend out just a little bit. The only thing that'll show from the side is going to be the bottom of the frame, which we're yet to install. The radius rod, the coilover, and the headlight. It'll be cool. Looks like we're going to have enough room for the tire to swing in here and fit. One thing that takes a long time is every time you weld something, you have to check the measurements. And things keep falling off the little stands, and sometimes it gets frustrating, but you just stick with it. We got some good beads on some of these things, just tacks really, and we'll get in here one day and really weld them up much better. You have to check this measurement all the time, because there's no adjustment in here. Actually, there's a tiny, ever so tiny bit of adjustment in this, but minuscule. So you need to check both your plumb bobs here and keep checking it in the back here also, just to make sure you hadn't kicked it or bumped it or something like that. It always concerns me when I'm committing to something. And all in all, it went great. And I think it's really cool that this core support turned out to look like a Japanese Torii Gate. Those traditional Japanese Torii Gates are painted either orange or red. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as we enjoyed making it. If you did, tell your friends and subscribe. It's important.